In this exercise, we are going to use the line object, and we are going to draw pretty much the equivalent of a tic-tac-toe board. Okay, so we are going to divide our pane into 9 cells. Okay, and we are going to make sure, this is the interesting bit, we are going to make sure that those lines actually adapt, their position and their length adapt as we resize the containing window. All right, so to do this, we are going to use that as an excuse to play with properties, okay, and bind properties to one another, so that when dimension of an object changes, automatically other objects characteristic change with it. So we are going to rename this class here. So I'm just going to call it TicTacToe. There we go. Let's save it. Alright, compile, always run, empty window, perfect, check, we're good to go. So now we're going to start playing with, like I said, lines. So we have a pane, we're going to use a basic pane for this, okay. We're going to say, here's a line named originally enough line. I'm going to create an object, a class line, and I'm going to set the coordinate to all zeros. So I'm not going to set the coordinate of the line in the constructor itself. You're going to see what I'm going to do instead. I need to import javafx.scene.shape.line. Alright. So you have a first line. I am going to eventually add it to my pane, otherwise it will not show up. And I'm going to set its color to set stroke color dot blue. Why not? So I'm using colors. Guess what? Import javafx. Oops, lots of typos here. javafx.scene.paint.color. All right. So let's see what we have. We don't really have anything, graphical to show, but that's going to just allow us to get rid of some little errors here. What am I missing here? Cannot find symbol pane.add line. Yes, what am I doing here? I'm trying to use the wrong method. Yes, I'm forgetting to add actually to the collection of children object in the pane, which is a standard way of doing that. Run. So like I said, we are not going to get exactly anything like worth looking at. Somewhere there is a line that starts at 0, 0 and stop at 0, 0. Not really visual, so we're going to fix that. Okay, we are going to create our scene, and we're going to give it a dimension that's actually not tiny first. So that's going to help with the size of the window. And then we are going to set some coordinates here that are a little bit more meaningful for our line. So let's see. We are going to do that by using actually the properties that are available in the line object. So there are 4 properties that are of interest for us. Okay, the start x, start y, end x, and end y property. Okay, start x is going to be 0 here, so I guess we can still set it, but start x property. Okay, so I get access to the start x property. I'm not going to use a setter here. Okay, I'm not going to set it to an arbitrary value, like for example the width and the height of the pane. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind it, so that whenever my target value changes, it's going to automatically change the start x property of this line. So my start x property is going to be always 0 here, so there's really no point in binding to something that's going to evaluate always to 0. So I'm going to instead use start y property as an example. So for this first line, I'm going to make sure that it starts at whatever the height property is for the pane, okay, divided by 3. So a third. Okay, a third of the height is where I'm starting my first line. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the end x property and the end y property. And I'm missing uppercase P here. There we go. So I'm going to bind both of these. There we go. Getting rid of the other plate code. And now I need to figure the actual values that I want to bind them to, okay? So in this case, it's going to be the width. I want my line to go all the way across the pane, so I bind it to the width of the pane. And for this one, it's going to be the height property divide by 3. So a third of the height. Okay, so we have something we can already kind of test here. So let's compile, see what we are missing. Nothing. Let's run. Okay, so it's a start, right? We have a line that looks like it's accurate. Okay, it's a third of the way from the top. It's horizontal, goes from one end to the other end. And this is the interesting part. When I resize my window, okay, those coordinates actually recompute themselves automatically because I bound them to the property of the coordinate of the length actually and width of the enclosing window. So they adapt automatically. That's nice. So now what we're going to do is we got over the hard part, okay, discovering how to do it for the first line. Now it's going to be a matter of doing the 3 next lines, okay? So I can reuse actually the same variable here, line like so, okay, create a new object each time, obviously, add that object to the pane, but I'm going to actually keep doing the same thing here. So let's see our second line. I'm going to start them all at 0 and then I will modify accordingly, okay? So for example, the y property for the second line, I'm going to say that I want it to be at 2/3, okay, of the height of the total pane. So I can do that easily by multiplying by 2 and then divided by 3, okay? So that's going to take care of that. The width has to be the same, so that's not a problem. And then what? And then I can modify here the y property. The y property, same thing, is going to be 2/3. So multiply by 2, then divide by 3, okay? The color, blue, and I add it immediately to my pane. That should compile without a problem. Yeah, there we go. And now we have 2 of these. There we go. And we make sure that they resize, of course. So now we need to take care of the vertical lines. So let's go ahead. Let's indent this mess. There we go. Vertical line. So this time we're going to start worrying about the start x property. So start x property. So the start y is going to be 0. I'm going to start at the edge of my pane. The start x property is going to be based on the width of the pane that I'm going to divide by 3. So here, I need to modify. And actually, you know what? I can take care of both of my last lines if I am a little bit more lazy here. I'm going to cut and paste the 2 pretty much lines that I did so far, okay? And I'm going to modify this by saying, okay, this is my start x property, so y start at 0, and instead of binding to the pane.height property, I'm going to bind to the width. But the logic is the same. That's why I cut and paste that one instead of the other one, okay? If I scroll down, for this one, I want to take the width and divide by 3, okay? And then I want to take my end x and end y property, and I want to base them again on the width property of the pane, and this time here I'm going to divide it by 3, okay? And then the last one is going to be the 8 property, which I do not divide by 3 because I want to go all the way to the end of that side of the pane, okay? So end y property, okay? And now I can apply the same logic here. So I want my my last line to be, again, it's going to be a width property here. Width property, which I'm going to multiply by 2/3, and then I'm going to use actually for end x, again, the width property multiplied by 2/3, So I'm going to steal that from here. And this one is going to be the end y property, which is the whole length of the pane. So it's going to be just tied to the pane.height property. Okay. And every time I add it to the pane as I go. So I'm going to compile that again. All right, run it. And there you are. So we have our little tic-tac-toe-like board, and all of the coordinates of those line objects are bound actually to the width and the height of our pane, which is itself based on the scene, which is itself based on the stage. So when I modify the size of my window here, I'm modifying essentially the stage. So you are going to have all of those things propagate. So just a heads up, there are other ways to achieve this kind of stuff, especially with the pane and the layout technique that we are going to study more in the next modules. But this is a nice way to actually do some drawing in a canvas and have this drawing auto configure as you resize the surrounding window.